Bestow Productions presents Creative Continuity at Baltimore Comic Con 2014. Get the latest news directly from comic book artists and writers. Tune in for Creative Continuity's coverage of Baltimore Comic Con. We bring the convention to you.
We're here with John Gallagher.
Comics are how I learned how to read, and I was just 3 or 4 when someone, I think I saw the Super Friends on TV, and I just loved superheroes, and my mom bought me a comic book. I think it was Shazam, Captain Marvel, and the combination of words and pictures just was really magical to me. From that point on, I kind of put down the Dr. Seuss's and was reading Batman and stuff that was at a higher reading level. So I was actually a pretty good reader in my school. And when I was 5, somebody showed me some comics that another kid had done, and I was like, oh, I can make my own comics, and that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Wow. And what was the inspiration behind Buzzboy?
Well, Buzzboy started off, I knew I wanted to do comics. I'd gotten out of college a couple years before, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And originally I was going to do like these sort of following the Vertigo line of comics, which are sort of horror-influenced stories. I was working on this sort of zombie comic, which we know they're not very popular. No, I'm just kidding. But I was working on this comic, but I wasn't having that much fun. And somebody pointed out, like one of my friends was like, I don't like it. And I was like, what do you mean you don't like it? She goes, you can tell this isn't you. This isn't your type of stuff. You should do a comic about someone like you who's funny and tells jokes, something that has humor. And I was like, well, who wants to read a comic about a guy who eats too much junk food and watches too much TV? And then I kind of laughed and I thought, oh, that actually would be pretty cool. So I took my influence, loving Robin, the Boy Wonder, and sort of took the idea of if he grew up, I don't think he would become a junior Batman like the way they were depicting him at that time. So I made Buzzboy sort of a grown-up teen sidekick who's still called Buzzboy even though he's grown up. I've since gone back and started to tell stories about Buzzboy at a younger age, but it just really resonated with people that I had. It's sort of like the fun humor that was in comic books, back in the 70s and 80s. Right. And then that's sort of been the progression that I've been on ever since. And Roboy Red is about a runaway theme park robot, and it's kind of came up from the idea when Walt Disney died, if Mickey Mouse were real, would he have run away when the corporation took over? So, and it's kind of like anybody who likes Astro Boy, or there's even a little bit of probably Pinocchio thrown in there. That he likes to stay unique. They want to build duplicates of him, and it's another fun, and we put it together as a graphic novel. Well, Roboy was basically, I got to the point where I needed someone to help me out with the artwork. I just wasn't fast enough, and I met up at a convention with this inker named Rich Faber, and Rich had worked on Steel, Green Lantern, he'd worked on Teen Titans, and he was just sort of at a crossroads where he was doing more illustration work than comics, and he told me, he's like, yeah, I'm kind of getting out of comics altogether. And he goes, but maybe I could do a pinup. And I said, well, would you consider inking Buzzboy? Because I had a couple, like about 40 pages worth of pencils that I needed inked. And he had so much fun that he's like, this is really fun. We should do something else together. He owns half of Roboy. He brought characters that he'd been working on. I brought my characters I was working on. We combined it into a graphic novel idea. And we've published the Buzzboy book and Roboy book. And it's part of a third book is coming out with our friend Jamar Nicholas called Leon, Protector of the Playground, and that'll be the third book in this series of like
the title.
Yes, it's a pretty fun book. There's so many grim and gritty comics that this was just something that is easier for me to do than anything else, and I just love doing it. And now I have 3 kids of my own, and they're my best audience and my toughest critics. So everything I do, I kind of run by them, and if they don't get it, then I know that I'm getting too tricky with my writing or my art, and it's been really fun. And over the last couple of years at these comic conventions, I've just had a lot of people say that I've been looking for something like this, something I could give my kids. And I try to follow the method of the Chuck Jones animation from Bugs Bunny, where there's enough humor that the adults will get, and you know, they're not just reading a kid's book, they're reading something they enjoy too. This is a book that I did Zoe and Ketchup with my daughter Katie.
Oh wow.
And it started off as these bedtime stories that we would tell each other about a little girl and her golden retriever, because we have a golden retriever, and the girl we called Zoe, and the dog we called Ketchup because he has a red tip on his tail. Somewhere along the line we just decided to make it into a comic book, and it took a couple years to kind of get around to doing it. At one point she was like, "Daddy, if you don't get this done, I'm going to get a new artist." So I almost got fired by my own daughter.
Wow.
And
tough business.
Yeah, exactly. And we came out with this at the Baltimore Comic Con last year and sold out. And I told her it's the first time, you know, I've ever had a sellout at a show. And but kids just love it. And we're working on a second one right now.
Now, you guys write that story together, like just make it up, feel just...
We do, yeah. And, you know, I've had people come up and they're like, yeah, you're doing all this, and your daughter, you just include her. And she actually, what we'll do is we will sit down and sort of talk out a story idea. I'll drop little thumbnails, and then we go over it again. I will illustrate the book and kind of, but she comes in and writes the dialogue with me.
Wow.
And I actually told her for the next one, you know, we have to really make this yours, so you have to write the next one all on your own. So Katie wrote it in a poetry form. And it's a story of how, the absolute true story about how Ketchup got the red tip on his tail.
Oh.
It's about a visit to the beach, and he has a run-in with a crab that doesn't work too well. So I'm drawing it right now. She wrote it completely already. She's just waiting on me again. And but the secret is that there is no true story about how Ketchup got the tip on his tail. Zoe tells a different story every time.
All right.
Because that's what
cool.
kids do.
What's the difference between being independent as opposed to working for like a big comic company? Is it much harder to...
Well, you know, there's definitely pluses and minuses.
Okay.
I would love to draw a Batman comic, but
Right.
the thing is that if I drew Batman and then the next month I wasn't drawing it, I don't think anyone would care. I mean, I think there's a great fun to drawing Superman and Batman and things like that, but they're, in the long run, they're just not your own characters.
Right.
So for me, the positive has always been, you know, no one can mess up Buzzboy or Roboy or Zoe and Ketchup but me, and I like having that control. On the other side, it's hard to get, you know, noticed, get some traction in the marketplace, and where I've had my success has been in the libraries and schools where I'm actually reaching kids, and that's why publishing them as square-bound graphic novels has been important. You know, the monthly kids comics are not things that I could do from a financial standpoint, but I really love having the control to, you know, decide what my character does and when they do it. And I think a lot of times I've had friends that were, you know, I had a friend that was drawing Spider-Man, and
Wow.
he said, "Boy, John, I really love what you do." And I'm like, "Well, I love what you do." And he goes, "Yeah, but, you know, Spider-Man's their character, it's not mine." And it was definitely a case of, it was hard because sometimes you're being told by editors or business people what to do in the story, not taking your own dreams and making something out of it.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, but you know, I think the best of both worlds is some of my friends who've worked on Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. They're all doing their own independent stuff as well, and getting that chance to kind of spread their wings.
Now, where do you see this going? In like animated series, video games, or?
Well, funny you should ask that, because right now I'm working on, I have in review both Buzzboy and Roboy as apps. One of the things I noticed is that my kids will often find out about comics. Like, we've got that generation that are discovering Spider-Man as a cartoon or a movie first,
Right.
or even a game. And what I basically have done now is created, there's a Roboy Red app that's coming out.
Wow.
It's not unlike Jetpack Joyride. And then Buzzboy is an endless runner game where he's jumping across flying saucers, and they're going to be available on the on iPhone, iPad, and Android devices. And the idea is that I'm going to have comics mixed into the apps, so somebody will at least get the idea of reading sequential comic art, and then there will also be links to the website as well as actual comic apps that they can read Buzzboy and Roboy Red stories. So
Wow.
I think it might be a neat way to pull kids and adults in.
Right. They're definitely the digital age right now.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
social
so go
media
where
and
they
things.
are.
Halgan here with Mark Waid.
I really did the math and stuff, and I realized that no other comic creator, writer, or artist has had a longer unbroken run on Daredevil than me, which is amazing to me.
Awesome.
Because that's not saying I'm by any stretch of the imagination am I the best or bragging about it or anything. I just think that's really cool that I've been able to be on. I'm lucky to be on that character for such a long period of time, but I'm having a great time.
Okay, now what are some of the elements that you love about the Daredevil character?
I love his power set. I love the fact that even though he's blind, he has the radar sense, he has the enhanced senses, but at the same time, it means that in every issue I want to see him do stuff that nobody else can do because he's got those powers, but at the same time I also always put in a scene where he's baffled by something that you and I would take totally for granted, like just like knowing what floor of an elevator button to push or whatever, like stuff that that as a blind guy he wouldn't normally suss to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, he suffers from some degree of depression, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's been a little undercurrent in the series, and I like that about him, that he's not cowed by it. It's just like he realizes that with depression, the biggest way to fight it is to keep pushing every day and keep trying to get momentum and try to push forward in life and not succumb to the inertia of just sort of sinking into despair. Okay. And it's a hard battle, but he's doing it, you know?
Right. Now, I heard that Netflix may be coming out with a series for the Daredevil.
Yeah, they actually are,
They are.
It's for sure, yeah. Marvel has worked out a deal with Netflix where they're doing a Daredevil TV miniseries. I think it's 13 episodes. And I think it's going to be great. I don't know, now you know as much as I do about it.
Okay.
But I think it looks great.
Well, what do they hope that they bring to the table?
I don't know. I think it's more of a going back to the New York Daredevil and more of that Frank Miller or Brian Bendis sort of gritty film noir and stuff. But I think the casting choices they made have been great, and I like the look of it. The other big Marvel book right now is a S.H.I.E.L.D. book. Actually,
okay.
It's not exactly a tie-in to the TV show because it's set in the Marvel universe. It's not TV continuity or Marvel continuity or Marvel movie continuity. It's hardcore Marvel continuity. But it's a way of bringing in some of the other S.H.I.E.L.D. characters from the show, like May and Fitz and Simmons, and bringing them into the Marvel universe for the first time. And it's basically the gimmick of the book is that everybody in the Marvel universe, whether they like it or not, is potentially an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. for that one mission. So it's all one issue, one story, and one mission, and we can call on whoever we want to be on the team at that moment. Like if it's if there's a terrorist attack on Doctor Strange's mansion and he's out of town, who do you call? You call Spider-Man, you call like Daredevil, or whoever you pick the right guys for that specific mission, whether it's Howard the Duck and Rocket Raccoon or who, and off you go. Thrillbent.com, which is my digital comics website, where Barry Kitson and I did a series called Empire about 10 years ago that was an Eisner Award nominated series, and we're now doing a sequel to it strictly on Thrillbent. So you go to Thrillbent.com on the web, or you go to if you got an iPad and you want to download the Thrillbent app, it's all right there, and awesome. I'm really proud of it.
Creative Continuity signing out with Mark Waid.
Take care.
Instead of having a secret back cave, he has his own diner because he loves milkshakes.
Okay.
So that's a lot like me. I actually drew the first 4 issues in the Tasty Diner in Bethesda, Maryland, because I had roommates at the time and didn't have a place to do it. So the diner just sort of seeped into the comic.